secret societies, and the New World Order. There is a power so organized, so subtle, so complete, so pervasive, that they had better not speak above their breath when they speak in condemnation of it. President Woodrow Wilson. History is replete with whispers of secret societies. Accounts of elders or priests who guarded the forbidden knowledge of ancient peoples. Prominent men, meeting in secret, who directed the course of civilization, are recorded in the writings of all people. The oldest is the Brotherhood of the Snake, also called the Brotherhood of the Dragon, and it still exists under many different names. The Brotherhood of the Snake is devoted to guarding the secrets of the ages, and to the recognition of Lucifer as the one and only true God. If you do not believe in God, Lucifer, or Satan, you must understand that there are great masses of people who do. I do not believe in racism, but millions do, and their beliefs and actions based upon those beliefs will affect me. It is clear that religion has always played a significant role in the course of these organizations. Communication with a higher source, often divine, is a familiar claim in all but a few. The secrets of these groups are thought to be so profound that only a chosen, well-educated few are able to understand and use them. These men use their special knowledge for the benefit of all mankind. At least, that is what they claim. How are we to know, since their knowledge and actions have been secret? Fortunately, some of it has become public knowledge. I found it intriguing that in most, if not all, primitive tribal societies, all of the adults are members. They are usually separated into male and female groups. The male usually dominates the culture. Surprisingly, this exactly resembles many civilized secret societies. This can only mean that the society is working not against established authority, but for it. In fact, could be said to actually be the established authority. This would tend to remove the validity of any argument that all secret associations are dedicated to the destruction of properly constituted authority. This can only apply, of course, where the secret society makes up the majority or entirety of any people which it affects. Only a very few fall into this category. Secret societies, in fact, mirror many facets of ordinary life. There is always an exclusivity of membership, with the resultant importance attached to being or becoming a member. This is found in all human endeavors, even those which are not secret, such as football teams or country clubs. This exclusivity of membership is actually one of the secret society's most powerful weapons. There is the use of signs, passwords, and other tools. These have always performed valuable functions in man's organizations everywhere. The stated reason, almost always different from the real reason, for the society's existence is important. It can be anything, but is usually fraternal, and is found in all pressure groups wherever people congregate. The comradeship is especially important. Sharing hardships or secrets has always been a special thrill to man. No one who has ever undergone the rigors of boot camp is ever likely to forget the special feeling of belonging and comradeship that was shared between the victims of the drill sergeant or company commander. It is an emotion born of initiation. The most potent tool of any secret society is the ritual and myth surrounding initiation. These special binding ceremonies have very deep meaning for the participants. Initiation performs several functions which make up the heart and soul of any true secret society. Like boot camp, the initiation into the armed forces, important aspects of human thought that are universally compelling, are merged to train and maintain the efforts of a group of people to operate in a certain direction. Initiation bonds the members together in mysticism. Neophytes gain knowledge of a secret, giving them special status. The ancient meaning of neophyte is planted anew or reborn. A higher initiation is, in reality, a promotion inspiring loyalty and the desire to move up to the next rung. The goals of the society are reinforced, causing the initiated to act toward those goals, in everyday life. That brings about a change in the political and social action of the member. The change is always in the best interest of the goals of the leaders of the secret society. The leaders are called adepts. This can best be illustrated by the soldier trained to follow orders without thinking. The result is often the wounding or death of the soldier for the realization of the commander's goal, which may or may not be good for the overall community. Initiation is a means of rewarding ambitious men who can be trusted. You will notice that the higher the degree of initiation, the fewer the members who possess the degree. This is not because the other members are not ambitious, but because a process of very careful selection is being conducted. A point is reached where no effort is good enough without a pull-up by the higher members. Most members never proceed beyond this point and never learn the real, secret purpose of the group. The frozen member from that point on serves only as a part of the political power base, as indeed he has always done. You may have guessed by now that initiation is a way to determine who can and cannot be trusted. A method of deciding exactly who is to become an adept may be decided during initiation. By asking the candidate to spit upon the Christian cross, if the candidate refuses, the members congratulate him and tell him, "You have made the right choice, as a true adept would never do such a terrible thing." The newly initiated might find it disconcerting, however, upon the cross. She has demonstrated a knowledge of one of the mysteries, and soon will find him, herself, a candidate for the next higher level. The mystery is that religion is but a tool to control the masses. Knowledge, or wisdom, is their only God, through which man himself will become God. The snake and the dragon are both symbols of wisdom. Lucifer is the personification of the symbol. It was Lucifer who tempted Eve to entice Adam to eat of the tree of knowledge, and thus free man from the bonds of ignorance. The worship, a lot different from study, of knowledge, science, or technology, is Satanism in its purest form. And its god is Lucifer. Its secret symbol is the all-seeing eye in the pyramid. Undesirable effects of secret societies and their aura of mystery has sometimes given them the reputation for being abnormal associations or, at the very least, strange groups of people. Whenever their beliefs are those of the majority, they are no longer considered antisocial. A good example is the Christian Church, which was at one time a secret society under the Roman Empire. In fact, the open, friendly secret society, the Vatican, actually ruled most, if not all, of the known world at one time. Most secret societies are generally considered to be antisocial. They are believed to contain elements that are not liked or are outright harmful to the community in general. This is exactly the case in some instances. Communism and fascism are secret societies, in many countries where they are prohibited by law. In this country, the Nazi Party and the Ku Klux Klan are secret societies due mostly to the fact that the general public is disgusted by them. Their activities are sometimes illegal, thus, the secrecy of their membership. The early Christians were a secret society because Roman authorities considered them from the start to be dangerous to imperial rule. The same was true of the followers of Islam. At least some of these true believers, working in secret, accomplished what would turn out to be for the eventual good of society. The Drusid and Yazidis in Syria and Iraq consider the Arabs a dangerous secret society dedicated to the takeover of the world. The Arabs today think the same of the Jews. Catholics and Freemasons used to have precisely the same ideas about each other. In many primitive or backward societies, initiation into the highest degrees of the group involved subjection to trials which not infrequently resulted in death or insanity for the candidate. It can be seen that social right and wrong is not the yardstick in estimating the value of a secret society. In Borneo, initiates of hunting societies consider it meritorious and compulsory to hunt heads. In Polynesia, infanticide and debauch were considered essential for initiation into their societies, where the tribal code needed members who indulged in these things as pillars of society. Since the beginning of recorded history, governmental bodies of every nation have been involved with maintaining the status quo to defend the establishment against minority groups that sought to function as states within states or to oust the constituted authority and take over in its place. Many of these attempts have succeeded, but have not always lasted. Man's desire to be one of the elect is something that no power on earth has been able to lessen, let alone destroy. It is one of the secrets of secret societies. It is what gives them a political base and lots of clout. Members often vote the same and give each other preference in daily business, legal, and social activities. It is the deepest desire of many to be able to say, "I belong to the elect." Houses of worship and sacrifice existed in the ancient cities. They were, in fact, temples built in honor of the many gods. These buildings functioned often as meeting places for philosophers and mystics who were believed to possess the secrets of nature. These men usually banded together in seclusive, philosophic, and religious schools. The most important of all of these ancient groups is the Brotherhood of the Snake, or Dragon, and was simply known as the Mysteries. The snake and dragon are symbols that represent wisdom. The father of wisdom is Lucifer, also called the Light-Bearer. The focus of worship for the Mysteries was Osiris, another name of Lucifer. Osiris was the name of a bright star that the ancients believed had been cast down onto the earth. The literal meaning of Lucifer is bringer of light, or the morning star. After Osiris was gone from the sky, the ancients saw the sun as the representation of Osiris, or, more correctly, Lucifer. Osiris was represented by the sun. Albert Pike, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer?" Isaiah 14:12. It is claimed that, after Lucifer fell from heaven, he brought with him the power of thinking, as Fred Giddings' symbolism in occult art. Most of the greatest minds that ever lived were initiated into the Society of Mysteries by secret and dangerous rites, some of which were very cruel. Some of the most famous were known as Osiris, Isis, Sabazius, Cybele, and Eleusis. Plato was one of these initiates, and he describes some of the mysteries in his writings. Plato's initiation encompassed 3 days of entombment in the Great Pyramid, during which time he died, symbolically, was reborn, and was given secrets that he was to preserve. Plato's writings are full of information on the mysteries. Manly P. Hall stated in his book, The Secret Teachings of All Ages, that the illumined of antiquity entered its pyramid of Giza portals as men. They came forth as gods. The ancient Egyptian word for pyramid was kuti, which meant glorious light. Mr. Hall says also, the pyramids, the great Egyptian temples of initiation. According to many, the Great Pyramids were built to commemorate and observe a supernova explosion that occurred in the year 4000 BC. Dr. Anthony Huge, 1974 Nobel Prize winner in physics, discovered a rhythmic series of radio pulses which he proved were emissions from a star that had exploded around 4000 BC. The Freemasons begin their calendar from AL, in the year of light, found by adding 4000 to the modern year. Thus 1990 plus 4000 equals 5990 AL. George Michanowski wrote in The Once and Future Star that the ancient Sumerian cuneiform described a giant star exploding within a triangle formed by Zeta Pepis, Gamma Velorum, and Lambda Velorum, located in the southern sky. An accurate star catalog now stated that the blazing star that had exploded within the triangle would again be seen by man in 6,000 years. According to the Freemasons' calendar, it will occur in the year 2000, and indeed it will. The spacecraft called Galileo is on its way to Jupiter, a baby star with a gaseous makeup exactly the same as our Sun, with a load of 49.7 pounds of plutonium, supposedly being used as batteries to power the craft. When its final orbit decays in December 1999, Galileo will deliver its payload into the center of Jupiter. The unbelievable pressure that will be encountered will cause a reaction exactly as occurs when an atomic bomb is exploded by an implosion detonator. The plutonium will explode in an atomic reaction, lighting the hydrogen and helium atmosphere of Jupiter and resulting in the birth of the star that has already been named Lucifer. The world will interpret it as a sign of tremendous religious significance. It will fulfill prophecy. In reality, it is only a demonstration of the insane application of technology by the Jason Society, which may or may not even work. They have practiced overkill to ensure success. However, as the documents that I read while in naval intelligence stated that project, Galileo required only 5 pounds of plutonium to ignite Jupiter and possibly stave off the coming ice age. Global warming is a hoax. It is easier for the public to deal with, and will give the ruling elite more time before panic and anarchy replace government. The reality is that overall global temperatures are becoming lower. Storms are becoming more violent and less predictable. Chapter 2: Secret Societies and the New World Order. 73. The ice caps at the poles are growing larger. The temperate zones where food can be grown are shrinking. Desertification is increasing in the tropics. An ice age is on its way, and it will occur suddenly. Simultaneously, a vault containing the ancient records of the earth will be opened in Egypt. The return of Lucifer and the opening of the vault will usher in the millennium. A great celebration has already been planned by the Millennium Society to take place at the pyramids in Egypt. According to the January 3, 1989 edition of the Arizona Daily Star, President-elect Bush is spending this New Year's holiday at Camp David, Maryland, but in 10 years, he may be in Egypt. Organizers of the Millennium Society say he's already committed to ushering in the next century at the Great Pyramid of Cheops in Giza. The first secret that one must know to even begin to understand the mysteries is that their members believe that there are but few truly mature minds in the world. They believe that those minds belong exclusively to them. The philosophy that follows is the classic secret society view of humanity. When a person of strong intellect is confronted with a problem which calls for the use of reasoning faculties, they keep their poise and attempt to reach a solution by garnering facts bearing upon the question. On the other hand, those who are immature, when confronted by the same problem, are overwhelmed. While the former may be said to be qualified to solve the mystery of their own destiny, the latter must be led like a bunch of animals and taught in the simplest language. Like sheep, they are totally dependent upon the shepherd. The able intellect is taught the mysteries and the esoteric spiritual truths. The masses are taught the literal exoteric interpretations. While the masses worship the five senses, the select few observe, recognizing in the gulf between them the symbolic concretions of great abstract truths. The initiated elect communicate directly to God's aliens, who communicate back to them. The masses sacrifice their lambs on an altar facing a stone idol that can neither hear or speak. The elect are given knowledge of the mysteries and are illumined, and are thus known as the Illuminati, or the Illuminated Ones, the guardians of the secrets of the ages. 3 early secret societies that can be directly connected to a modern descendant are the cults of Rosh Mithras and their counterpart, the Builders. They have many things in common with the Freemasons of today, as well as with many other branches of the Illuminati. For instance, common to the Brotherhood are the symbolic rebirth into a new life without going through the portal of death during initiation. Reference to the lion and the grip of the lion's paw. in the Master Mason's degree. The 3 degrees, which is the same as the ancient Masonic rites. Before the many other degrees were added, the ladder of 7 rungs, men only, and the all-seeing eye. Of special interest is the powerful society in Afghanistan in ancient times called the Roshaniya, Illuminated Ones. There are actually references to this mystical cult going back through history to the House of Wisdom at Cairo. The major tenets of this cult were the abolition of private property, the elimination of religion, the elimination of nation-states, the belief that illumination emanated from the Supreme Being who desired a class of perfect men and women to carry out the organization and direction of the world. Belief in a plan to reshape the social system of the world by first taking control of individual countries one by one. And the belief that after reaching the 4th degree, one could communicate directly with the unknown supervisors who had imparted knowledge to initiates throughout the ages. Wise men will again recognize the Brotherhood. Can you hear the echo of the Nazi Party, the Communist Party, the extreme right, and the extreme left? The important fact to remember is that the leaders of both the right and the left are a small, hard core of men who have been, and still are, Illuminists, or members of the Brotherhood. They may have been, or may be members of the Christian or Jewish religions, but that is only to further their own ends. They are, and always have been, Luciferian and internationalist. They give allegiance to no particular nation, although they have used, on occasion, nationalism to further their causes. Their only concern is to gain greater economic and political power. The ultimate objective of the leaders of both groups is identical. They are determined to win for themselves undisputed control of the wealth, natural resources, and manpower of the entire planet. They intend to turn the world into their conception of a Luciferian totalitarian socialist state. In the process, they will eliminate all Christians, Jews, and atheists. You have just learned one, but only one, of the great mysteries. The Roshaniya also called themselves the Order. Initiates took an oath that absolved them of all allegiance, except to the Order, and stated, "I bind myself to perpetual silence and unshaken loyalty and submission to the Order. All humanity which cannot identify itself by our secret sign is our lawful prey." The oath remains essentially the same to this day. The secret sign was to pass a hand over the forehead, palm inward. The countersign, to hold the ear with the fingers and support the elbow in the cupped other hand. Does that sound familiar? The Order is the order of the quest. The cult preached that there was no heaven, no hell, only a spirit state completely different from life as we know it. The spirit could continue to be powerful on earth through a member of the Order, but only if the spirit had been itself a member of the Order before its death. Thus, members of the Order gained power from the spirits of the dead members. The Roshaniya took in travelers as initiates, and then sent them on their way to found new chapters of the Order. It is believed by some that the assassins were a branches of the Roshaniya, or the Illuminated Ones, or the Illuminati existed and still exist everywhere. One of the rules was not to use the same name, and never mention the Illuminati. That rule is still in effect today. I believe that it is the breaking of this rule that resulted in Adam Weishaupt's downfall. One of the greatest secrets of the ages is the true story of the Holy Grail, the robe of Jesus, the remains of the cross of crucifixion, and whether Jesus actually died or if he survived and produced a child. Many myths surround the Knights Templar concerning these relics, and most myths throughout history always have at least some basis in fact. If my sources are correct, the Knights Templar survive today as a branch of the Illuminati, and guard the relics, which are hidden in a location known only to them. We know that the Templars are Illuminati, because the Freemasons absorbed and protected those that escaped persecution of the Church and France. just as the Freemasons would absorb and protect Weishaupt's Illuminati centuries later. The Knights Templar exist today as a higher degree of Freemasonry within the Templar Order. In fact, the Knights Templar is a branch of the Order of the Quest. The De Molay Society is a branch of the Freemasons that consecrates the memory of the persecution of the Knights Templar, and in particular, their leader, Jacques de Molay. I know, because I was a member of the De Molay Society as a young adult. I loved the mystery and ritual. I became separated from the society when my family moved to a location out of reach of any lodge. I believe to this day that my association with the De Molay Society may have been the reason for my selection for naval security and intelligence. According to members of the intelligence community, when the New World Order is solidified, the relics will be taken out, will be united with the Spear of Destiny, and will, according to legend, give the world's ruler absolute power. This may confirm beliefs passed down through the ages that describe the significance of these relics, when united in the hands of one man. It may also explain Hitler's desperate search for their hiding place during World War II. Again, I must remind you that it makes not one iota of difference what you believe. If they believe, you will be affected. The Knights Templar were founded sometime during the 1 century in Jerusalem by the Prieur de Sion, for the express purpose of guarding the remaining relics of Jesus and to provide military protection for the religious travelers during their pilgrimage to the Holy City. The Prieur de Sion was a religious order founded upon Mount Sion in Jerusalem. The order set for itself the goal of preserving and recording the bloodline of Jesus and the House of David. Through every means available to them, the Prieur de Sion had found and retrieved the remaining relics. These relics were entrusted to the Knights Templar for safekeeping. I am amazed at the authors of Holy Blood, Holy Grail, and the information that they have unearthed. Most of all, I am amazed at their inability to put the puzzle together. The treasure hidden in France is not the treasure of the Temple of Jerusalem. It is the Holy Grail itself, the robe of Jesus, the last remaining pieces of the cross of crucifixion, and, according to my sources, someone's bones. I can tell you that the reality of the bones will shake the world to its very foundations. If I have been told the truth, the relics are hidden in France. I know the location, and so do the authors of Holy Blood, Holy Grail, but they do not know that they know, or do they? Adam Weishaupt, a young professor of canon law at Ingolstadt University in Germany, was a Jesuit priest and an initiate of the Illuminati. The branch of the order he founded in Germany in 1776 was the same Illuminati previously discussed. The Jesuit connection is important, as you will see later in this chapter. Researchers agree that he was financed by the House of Rothschild, the same Rothschild family mentioned in Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. Weishaupt advocated abolition of all ordered national governments, abolition of inheritance, abolition of private property, abolition of patriotism, abolition of the individual home and family life as the cell from which all civilizations have stemmed, and abolition of all religions established and existing, so that the Luciferian ideology of totalitarianism may be imposed. In the same year that he founded the Neo-Monadi, he published Wealth of Nations, the book that provided the ideological foundation for capitalism and for the Industrial Revolution. It is no accident that the Declaration of Independence was written in the same year. On the obverse of the Great Seal of the United States, the wise will recognize the all-seeing eye and other signs of the Brotherhood of the Snake. Every tenet was the same. Date and beliefs confirm that Weishaupt's Illuminati is the same as the Afghan Illuminated ones and the other cults which call themselves Illuminated. The Alumbrados of Spain were the same as were the Illuminated Guerinettes of France. In the United States, they were known as the Jacobin clubs. Secrets within secrets within secrets. But always at the heart is the Brotherhood. I believe that Weishaupt was betrayed and set up for persecution because he ignored the rule that the word Illuminati or the existence of the Brotherhood would never be exposed to public knowledge. His exposure and outlawing accomplished several goals of the still hidden and still very powerful Brotherhood. It allowed members to debunk claims of its existence on the grounds that the Pluminati had been exposed and outlawed and thus was no longer a reality. It allowed members to deny allegations of conspiracy of any kind. The Brotherhood of the Snake is adept at throwing out decoys to keep the dogs at bay. Weishaupt may have been a fool, or he may have been doing exactly what he was told. Weishaupt said, "The great strength of our order lies in its concealment. Let it never appear in its own name, but always covered by another name, and another occupation." Allegations that the Freemason organizations were infiltrated by the Illuminati during Weishaupt's reign are hogwash. The Freemasons have always contained the core of Illuminati within their ranks, and that is why they so freely and so willingly took in and hid the members of Weishaupt's group. You cannot really believe that the Freemasons, if they were only a simple fraternal organization, would have risked everything, including their very lives, by taking in and hiding outlaws who had been condemned by the monarchies of Europe. It is mainly Freemason authors who have perpetuated the myth that Adam Weishaupt was the founder of the Illuminati, and that the Illuminati was destroyed, never to surface again. In 1826, an American Freemason wrote a book revealing Masonic secrets entitled Illustrations of Freemasonry. One of the secrets that he revealed is that the last mystery at the top of the Masonic pyramid is the worship of Lucifer. We have since learned the secret of the story of the murder of Hiram Abiff. Hiram Abiff represents intelligence, liberty, and truth, and was struck down by a blow to the neck with a rule, representing the suppression of speech by the church. Then he was struck in the heart with a square, representing the suppression of belief by the state. And finally, he was struck on the head by a maul, representing the suppression of intellect by the masses. Freemasonry thus equates the church, the state, and masses with tyranny, intolerance, and ignorance. What Morgan revealed was that the Freemasons were pledged to avenge Hiram Abiff, and that their plan was to strike down the church, the state, and the freedom of the masses. Morgan caused a small uproar against the Masons. The small uproar turned into a full-blown anti-Freemason movement when the author, William Morgan, disappeared. Morgan had apparently been abducted and drowned in Lake Ontario. It was alleged that fellow Masons had done it, a claim that they deny to this day. Who else would have done it? I believe they murdered him. The newspapers of the time state without reservation that he was murdered by Masons. The oath of initiation into the Freemasons states that if secrets are told, the initiate will be murdered. A nationwide furor ensued that resulted in the creation of an anti-Masonic political party in 1829 by Henry Dana Ward, Thurlow Weed, and William H. Seward. Interest in several anti-Masonic books was revived during that period, with the result that Freemasonry suffered a severe loss of membership. It lasted only a few years, and by 1840, the anti-Masonic party was extinct. Time really does cure all ills. We know that the British Freemasons are a totally self-serving group that discriminates in favor of its own whenever jobs, promotions, contracts, or careers are concerned. The English Freemason organization was used by the KGB to infiltrate and take over British intelligence. British intelligence is synonymous with Chatham House, more commonly known as the Royal Institute for International Affairs, the parent organization of the Council on Foreign Relations in the United States. The English State Police, Scotland Yard, ordered its personnel not to join the Masons for fear the same would happen to them. Of course, you have been told all your life that the Freemasons are only a benevolent fraternal organization bent only on community service. Read on, O innocent one. Probably the most notorious Freemason lodge is the P2 Lodge in Italy. This group has been implicated in everything from bribery to assassinations. P2 is directly connected to the Vatican, the Knights of Malta, and to the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency. It is powerful and dangerous. The P2 Lodge has succeeded in infiltrating the Vatican and has scored a coup of tremendous significance. The Pope, John Paul II, has lifted the ban against Freemasonry. Many high-level members of the Vatican are now Freemasons. I tell you now that Freemasonry is one of the most wicked and terrible organizations upon this earth. The Masons are major players in the struggle for world domination. The 33rd degree is split into two. One split contains the core of the Luciferian Illuminati, and the other contains those who have no knowledge of it whatsoever. ALL of the intelligence officers that I worked for while in naval intelligence were Masons. As I stated before, I believe that my association with the De Molay Society as a young adult may have been the reason that I was selected for naval security and intelligence. However, that is only a guess. I had intended to go into great detail linking P2, the Prieur de Sion, the Vatican, the CIA, Organizations for a United Europe, and the Bilderberg Group. Fortunately, Michael Bagent, Richard Lee, and Henry Lincoln beat him to it. I say, fortunately, because they confirm my previous allegation that I published in my paper, The Secret Government, that the CIA had plants called moles deep within the Vatican. I do not wish to be called a plagiarist, so you must read Holy Blood, Holy Grail, and The Messianic Legacy, both by Bagent, Lee, and Lincoln. Any reputable bookstore should carry them. Between pages 343 and 361 of The Messianic Legacy, you can read of the alliance of power that resulted in a secret world government. Most members of the Freemasons are not aware that the Illuminati practices what is known as secrets within secrets, or organizations within organizations. That is one purpose of initiation. I cannot excuse any of the members, however. For anyone who joins a society without knowing everything about the organization is indeed a fool. Only those at the top who have passed every test truly know what the Masons are hiding, thus rendering it impossible for anyone outside to know much at all about the group. What does that say about new members, or those who are already members but do not know the ultimate secrets? It tells me that fools abound. Unlike authors who, out of fear, have acted as apologists for the Freemasons, I decline to absolve them of responsibility and guilt. The Freemasons, like everyone else, are responsible for the cleanliness of their home. The occupant of a secret house within a secret house within a secret house cannot clean if he cannot see the number of rooms or what they contain. Their house is a stinking cesspool. Look to the Masons for the guilty party if anything happens to me. I believe that they have murdered in the past and that they will murder in the future. I firmly believe that all adult secret societies that practice degrees of initiation and consider the members to be illuminated are branches of the original ages-old Illuminati. Their goal is to rule the world. The doctrine of this group is not democracy or communism, but is a form of fascism. The doctrine is totalitarian socialism. You must begin to think correctly. The Illuminati are not communists, but some communists are Illuminati. One monarchism thesis faced democracy antithesis in WWI, which resulted in the formation of communism and the League of Nations synthesis. Two democracy and communism thesis faced fascism antithesis in World War II and resulted in a more powerful United Nations synthesis. 3. Capitalism thesis now faces communism antithesis, and the result will be the New World Order. Totalitarian socialism synthesis. The 1953 report of the California Senate Investigating Committee on Education stated, So-called modern communism is apparently the same hypocritical world conspiracy to destroy civilization that was founded by the Illuminati, and that raised its head in our colonies here at the critical period before the adoption of our Constitution. The California Senate understood that communism is the work of the Illuminati. They failed to realize that the Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission are also the work of the Illuminati. UMUST begin to think correctly. The enemy is not communism, it is ne-humanism. The communists are not going to be much happier with the New World Order than we. I hope to show that most modern secret societies, and especially those that practice degrees of initiation, and that is the key, are really one society with one purpose. You may call them whatever you wish: the Order of the Quest, the Jason Society, the Roshania, the Kabbalah, the Knights Templar, the Knights of Malta, the Knights of Columbus, the Jesuits, the Masons, the Ancient and Mystical Order of Rosicrucis, the Illuminati, the Nazi Party, the Communist Party, the executive members of the Council on Foreign Relations, the Group, the Brotherhood of the Dragon, the Rosicrucians, the Royal Institute of International Affairs, the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderberg Group, the Open Friendly Secret Society, the Vatican, the Russell Trust, the Skull and Bones, the Scroll and Key, the Order. They are all the same, and all work toward the same ultimate goal: a new world order. Many of them, however, disagree on exactly who will rule this new world order, and that is what causes them to sometimes pull in opposite directions, while nevertheless proceeding toward the same goal. The Vatican, for instance, wants the Pope to head the World Coalition. Some want Lord Maitreya to head the New World Order. Lord Maitreya is the front-runner, I believe, since witnesses say he was present on the ship at Malta with Bush, Gorbachev, and the 10 regional heads of the New World Order. Approximately 200 dignitaries from around the world attended a major conference initiated by Maitreya in London on April 21st and 22nd, 1990. Representatives of governments, including the USA, members of royal families, religious leaders, and journalists, all of whom had met with Maitreya previously, attended the conference. Quote, from Prophecy Watch, column of Whole Wheat No. 8, Minneapolis. Someone has also spent an awful lot of money announcing his presence. The Pope will have to approve him if Maitreya is selected, however, and that would fulfill the Bible prophecy in the book of Revelation that states that the first beast will be given his power by Rome. If you can interpret Revelation as I can, then you know that the Pope will ultimately win out and will reign as the second beast. In 1952, an alliance was formed, bringing them all together for the first time in history. The Black families, the Illuminati, the Order, the Vatican, and the Freemasons now work together to bring about the New World Order. All will protest their innocence and will do everything within their power to destroy anyone who suggests otherwise. I will undoubtedly become a target when this book is published. You may notice that some of those listed in the preceding paragraphs do not, or so it appears, practice degrees of initiation. That is the public view. Look at the Council on Foreign Relations. Many members, in fact, the majority, never serve on the executive committees. They never go through any initiation of any kind. They are, in fact, the power base and are used to gain a consensus of opinion. The majority are not really members, but are made to feel as if they are. In reality, they are being used and are unwilling or unable to understand. The executive committee is an inner core of intimate associates, members of a secret society called the Order of the Quest, also known as the Jason Society, devoted to a common purpose. The members are an outer circle on whom the inner core acts by personal persuasion, patronage, and social pressure. That is how they bought Henry Kissinger. Rockefeller gave Kissinger a grant of $50,000 in the early 50s. a fortune in those days, and made dear old Henry a member of the C. Anyone in the outer circle who does not toe the mark is summarily expelled, and the lesson is not lost on those who remain. Do you remember the human desire to be a member of the elect? That is the principle at work. The real power are men who are always recruited, without exception, from the secret. Societies of Harvard and Yale, known as the Skull and Bones, and the Scroll and Key. Both societies are secret branches, also called the Brotherhood of Death, of what is otherwise historically known as the Illuminati. They are connected to parent organizations in England, the group of Oxford University, and especially All Souls College. And Germany, the Thule Society, also called the Brotherhood of Death. I learned this when I was with Naval Intelligence. I was not able to explain why some members of the executive committee were not listed under the addresses of Chapter 322 of the Skull and Bones Society, until I read The Wise Men by Walter Isaacson and Evan Thomas, Simon & Schuster, New York. Under illustration number 9, in the center of the book, you will find the caption, "Love It," with the Yale unit. Above far right, and on the beach. His initiation into Skull and Bones came at an airbase near Dunkirk. I have found that members of these two societies were chosen on an ongoing basis by invitation based upon merit post-college, and were not confined to only Harvard or Yale attendees. Only members of the order are initiated into the Order of the Quest, the Jason Society that makes up the executive members of the Council on Foreign Relations and, in fact, the Trilateral Commission as well. The executive members of the Council on Foreign Relations are the real elect in this country. George Bush is a member of the order. Surprised? You shouldn't be. His father was also a member who helped finance Hitler. It is important that you know that the members of the order take an oath that absolves them from any allegiance to any nation, or king, or government, or constitution. And that includes the negating of any subsequent oath of allegiance which they may be required to take. They swear allegiance only to the order and its goal of a new world order. George Bush is not a loyal citizen of the United States, but instead is loyal only to the destruction of the United States and to the formation of the New World Order. According to the oath Bush took when he was initiated into Skull and Bones, his oath of office as President of the United States of America means nothing. The Trilateral Commission is an elite group of some 300 very prominent business, political and intellectual decision-makers of Western Europe, North America, and Japan. This enterprise is a private agency that works to build up political and economic cooperation among the three regions. Its grand design, which it no longer hides, is a new world order. The Trilateral Commission was the idea of its founder, American banking magnate David Rockefeller. The real reason for its formation was the decline of the Council on Foreign Relations power as a result of the people's dissatisfaction with the Vietnam War. The reasoning behind the move toward the Trilateral Commission was the same as entering two horses in the same race. It doubles the chances of winning. The real power has always remained solidly in the hands of the Council on Foreign Relations. The Rockefeller family was, is, and always will be the benefactor of both organizations. Rockefeller, though powerful, is not in control in this country or anywhere else. The key to the real power is the fact that Rockefeller had to put out feelers at a Bilderberg Group meeting in 1972 about forming a private group of trilateral leaders. The Bilderberg Group gave the nod, and Rockefeller's man Zbigniew Brzezinski gathered up a membership and organized the Trilateral Commission in 1972, not in 1973, as the Commission claims. A key to the danger presented by the Trilateral Commission is its seminal piece, written for them by Harvard professor Samuel P. Huntington in the mid-70s. In the paper, Professor Huntington recommended that democracy and economic development be discarded as outdated ideas. He wrote, as co-author of the book Crises in Democracy, we have come to recognize that there are potential desirable limits to economic growth. There are also potentially desirable limits to the indefinite extension of political democracy. A government which lacks authority will have little ability short of cataclysmic crisis to impose on its people the sacrifice which may be necessary. The crises and sacrifices he talks about will be discussed in a later chapter. Remember that George Bush was a member of the Trilateral Commission and only resigned as an expediency to get elected. He believes wholeheartedly in the Commission and its ideas and ideals. We have elected a president who believes that democracy and economic development must be discarded. I tell you now that he is working toward that end. Bush is still a member of the Order and the Jason Society, or Jason Scholars, takes its name from the story of Jason and the Golden Fleece, and it is a branch of the Order of the Quest, one of the highest degrees in the Illuminati. The Golden Fleece takes on the role of truth to Jason members. Jason represents the search for the truth. Therefore, the name Jason Society denotes a group of men who are engaged in a search for the truth. The name Jason is spelled with capital letters when used as the name of the Jason Society. Lowercase letters are never used when referring to this secret group. Authors note, the name may even have a deeper meaning, as the name Jason and the Golden Fleece appear throughout history in relation to various other secret societies. In these instances, the story represents man Jason looking for himself, Golden Fleece. Top secret documents that I read while with naval intelligence stated that President Eisenhower had commissioned the Jason Society to examine all of the evidence, facts, lies, and deception, and find the truth of the alien question. Founders of the Jason Group, not the same as the Jason Society, include members of the famous Manhattan Project, which brought together almost every leading physicist in the nation to build the atomic bomb during World War II. The group is made up mostly of theoretical physicists, and is the most elite gathering of scientific minds in the United States. As of 1987, the membership included 4 Nobel Prize winners. Today, Jason continues to offer scientific help the government cannot find anywhere else. They are probably the only group of scientists in the United States that know the true state of highest technology. Jason is shrouded in what appears to be unnecessary secrecy. The group refuses to release its membership list. None of the members list Jason membership on their official resumes. Working completely behind the scenes, Jason has guided the nation's most important security decisions. These include, but are not limited to, Star Wars, submarine warfare, and predictions about the greenhouse effect. The Jason members are each paid a $500 per day consultant's fee. In the documents that I read while with naval intelligence, the Jasons predicted that the greenhouse effect would lead ultimately to an ice age. According to the Pentagon, the Jasons hold the highest and most restrictive security clearances in the nation. They are given the protocol rank of Rear Admiral 2 stars. When they visit or travel aboard ships or visit military bases, the only other reference to the Jason Group that I have been able to find is in the Pentagon Papers. The papers stated that Jason was responsible for designing the electronic barrier between North and South Vietnam for the purpose of sealing off infiltration of the South by North Vietnamese regulars during the Vietnam War. I was stationed on the DMZ, and I can tell you that it did not work. The veil of secrecy drawn around the Jason Group has been so tight and so leak-proof since its conception that those who think the government cannot keep a secret need to re-examine that position. The government was able to contain the Jason's secret, except for the one leak. But the Jason Group itself, a civilian group, did even better. No leaks have ever occurred from within Jason. Jason is administered by the MITRE Corporation. Government contracts allotted to the MITRE Corporation are in reality allotted to the Jason scientists. This is done so that the name Jason does not ever appear in documents which may come under public scrutiny. What is the difference between the Jason Scholars, or Jason Society, and the Jason Group? The documents that I read referred to the Jason Society in exactly those words. In public documents, the only Jason reference is to the Jason Group, administered by the MITRE Corporation. I believe the Jason Society is one of the highest degrees above the Skull and Bones and the Scroll and Key in the Illuminati. In other words, it is a higher level of initiation. The Jason Group is a scientific organization formed and hired by the Jason Society and the US government for obvious reasons. I know a lot more about the Jason Society and the Jason Group. But I do not want to injure Mr. Grant Cameron, who has done extensive research on these subjects. He will publish his research in the coming months. I guarantee his findings will amaze you. The Council on Foreign Relations has been the foremost flank of America's foreign policy establishment for more than half a century. The Council on Foreign Relations is a private organization of business executives, scholars, and political leaders that studies global problems and plays a key role in developing U.S. foreign policy. The CFR is one of the most powerful semi-official groups concerned with America's role in international affairs. It is controlled by an elect group of men recruited from the Skull and Bones and the Scroll and Key Societies of Harvard and Yale, which are both chapters of a secret branch of the Illuminati known as Chapter 322 of the Order. See page 81. The members of the Order make up the Executive Committee of the Council on Foreign Relations after undergoing initiation into the Order of the Quest, also known as the Jason Society. The Council on Foreign Relations is an offshoot sister organization to the British Royal Institute of International Affairs. Their goal is a new world order. Although it existed as a dinner club in New York, it did not take on its present power until 1921, when it merged with the Royal Institute of International Affairs and received its financial base from J.R. Morgan, the Carnegie Endowment, the Rockefeller family, and other Wall Street banking interests. The Council on Foreign Relations controls our government. Through the years, its members have infiltrated the entire executive branch, State Department, Justice Department, CIA, and the top ranks of the military. Every director of the Central Intelligence Agency has been a member of the CFR. Most presidents since Roosevelt have been members. The members of the CFR dominate ownership of the press, and most, if not all, of America's top journalists are members. The CFR does not conform to government policy. The government conforms to CFR policy. The appendix contains the most current list of CFR members that I was able to locate. I read top-secret documents while with naval intelligence that stated that President Eisenhower had appointed 6 of the executive committee members of the CFR to sit on the panel called Majesty 12, also known as Majority 12 for security reasons. Majesty 12 is the secret group that is supposed to control extraterrestrial information and projects. The documents stated that Eisenhower had also appointed 6 members from the executive branch of government who were also members of the CFR. The total membership of Majesty 12 was 19, including Dr. Edward Teller and the 6 members from the Jason Scientific Group. Again, whether this is true or disinformation depends solely upon the existence of aliens. The CFR is a secret society in that it forbids the taking of notes or the publishing of minutes of its meetings. Any member who divulges the subject or any part of any conversation or talk that took place during a meeting is terminated. The goal of the Council on Foreign Relations is a new world order. George Bush is a member of the CFR. Knights of Malta play a powerful role in this scenario. In the 1930s, General Smedley Butler was recruited to help take over the White House. He was told that he was needed because of his general popularity. With the military, General Butler blew the whistle and named several prominent Americans as part of the plot. At the top of the list was John J. Raskob, who was a founding member of the U.S. branch of the Knights of Malta. He was board chairman of General Motors. He was, at the time, the U.S. Treasurer of the Knights of Malta. Congressional hearings were held to investigate the plot, but none of those named, including Raskob, was ever called to testify, and nothing ever came of the hearings. Although you will find this in the congressional records, you will never find it in an history book anywhere. It is significant that the Iran-Contra episode has many similarities to the 1930s plot. William Casey was a member of the Knights of Malta. William Casey, with the help of Vice President Bush and Armstrong and Donald Reagan, caused the President's Foreign Intelligence Advisory Board to be emasculated, so that Bush, Casey, North, and others could carry out their dirty deeds without oversight. They had also developed a plan to suspend the Constitution of the United States, and were preparing to implement the plan when they were caught. These facts emerged from the hearings, but were suppressed by the committee chairman, Senator Daniel Eno of Hawaii. You must understand that tremendous power was involved in both attempts to overthrow the United States government. William Casey was the director of the CIA. He was a member of the CIA. Casey was a Knight of Malta. He was the head of Ronald Reagan's political campaign. He was head of the Securities and Exchange Commission. During the Nixon administration, he was head of the Export-Import Bank. Casey arranged financing for the Kama River truck factory in the Soviet Union, with 90% of the funds guaranteed or furnished by the U.S. taxpayer. This factory built military truck and tank engines for the Soviet Army. It was, and may still be, the largest factory in the world, and could produce more heavy trucks than all U.S. factories together. I believe Casey was murdered. The Knights of Malta is a world organization with its threads weaving through business, banking, politics, the CIA, other intelligence organizations, P2, religion, education, law, military, think tanks, foundations, the United States Information Agency, the United Nations, and numerous other organizations. They are not the oldest, but are one of the oldest branches of the Order of the Quest in existence. The world head of the Knights of Malta is elected for a life term with the approval of the Pope. The Knights of Malta have their own constitution and are sworn to work toward the establishment of a new world order with the Pope at its head. Knights of Malta members are also powerful members of the CFR and the Trilateral Commission. The Vatican has been infiltrated over many years by the Illuminati. This is easily proven by the fact that in 1738, Pope Clement XII issued a papal bull, which stated that any Catholic who became a Mason would be excommunicated. A very serious punishment. In 1884, Pope Leo XIII issued a proclamation stating that Masonry was one of the secret societies attempting to revive the manners and customs of the pagans and establish Satan's kingdom on earth. Piers Compton, in his book The Broken Cross, traces the infiltration of the Catholic Church by the Illuminati. He has found the use of the all-seeing eye in the triangle by leading Catholics and by the Jesuits. It was used in the seal of the Philadelphia Eucharistic Congress in 1976. It was on a special issue of Vatican stamps in 1978, announcing the final Illuminati victory to the world. Mr. Compton claims that Pope John XXIII wore the all-seeing eye in the triangle on his personal cross. Compton is adamant that several hundred leading Catholic priests, bishops, and cardinals are members of secret societies. He quotes an article in an Italian journal that lists more than 70 Vatican officials, including Pope Paul VI's private secretary, the Director General of Vatican Radio, the Archbishop of Florence, the Prelate of Milan, the assistant editor of the Vatican newspaper, several Italian bishops, and the abbot of the Order of Saint Benedict. Those are only the ones that are known, and only the ones known in Italy. It is widely believed that this Pope, John Paul XXII, is a member of the Illuminati. I believe, according to my research, that it is true. The best indication of infiltration is that on November 27, 1983, the Pope retracted all of the papal bulls against Freemasonry and allowed Catholics, after several hundred years, to again become members of secret societies without fear. The goal of the Illuminati to elect one of their own to the papacy appears to have come to fruition. If that is the case, the New World Order is just on the horizon. Now is the time. The first U.S. ambassador to the Vatican was William Wilson, a Knight of Malta. His appointment was probably illegal and, for a fact, was highly unethical. Wilson could not possibly have represented the U.S. when his allegiance was sworn to the Pope. Wilson, if you will remember, took an unauthorized trip to Libya and met privately with Libyan officials at a time when travel to Libya had been banned by the president. President Ronald Reagan had called Gaddafi a mad dog and made a few strong threats. The U.S. had been resolute in bombing Libya, even though civilians were killed. Following Wilson's trip, Gaddafi issued a press release stating that an American diplomat had been sent to reduce tensions with Libya. The State Department denied that any such thing had taken place. Ambassador Wilson closed his mouth and refused any comment. To this day he has said nothing, even though his actions made a liar of the United States and embarrassed us worldwide. A clue to what was happening is the fact that while we had cut off Libya and even bombed them, and while travel by U.S. citizens to Libya was forbidden, 5 huge oil conglomerates were filling their pockets, dealing with Gaddafi. One of the companies was headed by J. Peter Grace, president of W.R. Grace. 8 members of the W.R. Grace Company are members of the Knights of Malta. According to an article by Leslie Geld in the New York Times, administration officials had expressed concern about Mr. Wilson's activities. These actions, they said, often seem to revolve around his contacts and interest in the oil business. Wilson should have been fired, but instead, nothing happened except that he and his wife attended a papal Easter Mass and stood next to George Shultz and his wife. In diplomatic language, this indicated private approval of his actions. George Shultz, of course, is a member of the CFR, the Bohemian Club, and the Bechtel Corporation, all of which have close ties to the Order and the Knights of Malta. Wilson engaged in several other improprieties during his ambassadorship. Again, in each case, nothing happened. Finally, he resigned. Later, if you will remember, President Reagan suffered a fall from a horse on William Wilson's ranch in Mexico. Do you seriously think that President Reagan would have visited Wilson's home in Mexico if he had not approved of Wilson's actions while he was the U.S. ambassador to the Vatican? Knight of Malta, Myron Taylor was President Roosevelt's envoy. Knight of Malta John McCone was president, Kennedy's envoy, and he was also the director of the CIA during the early 60s. A former mayor of New York City, Robert Wagner, was President Jimmy Carter's envoy. Frank Shakespeare replaced William Wilson. Frank Shakespeare is a Knight of Malta, and so it goes. President Reagan spoke at the annual Knights of Malta dinner. The Knights of Malta have diplomatic immunity. They can ship goods across borders without paying duty or undergoing customs check. Does that ring any bells? In any case, that is power. The Knights of Malta is held up by a backbone consisting of nobility. Nearly half of the 10,000 members belong to Europe's oldest and most powerful families. This cements the alliance between the Vatican and the black nobility. The black nobility is mostly the rich and powerful of Europe. The head of the black nobility is the family that can claim direct descendancy from the last Roman emperor. Maybe now you can see that things are beginning to fall into their proper place. Membership in the Knights of Malta entails obedience to one's superior in the order and ultimately to the Pope. Therefore, a U.S. ambassador who is also a member of the Knights of Malta faces a conflict of interest. Why is this fact ignored? President Bush appointed Knight of Malta Thomas Mellody to the post of U.S. ambassador to the Vatican. The Vatican has founded the Pope John Paul II Center for Prayer and Study for Peace at 1711 Ocean Avenue, Spring Lake, New Jersey, in a mansion overlooking the ocean. The mansion was given to the New York Archdiocese by the estate of Elmer Bobst, who died in 1978. He was a multimillionaire and chairman of Warner Lambert Company. Richard Nixon was a frequent visitor. Directors of the center were Kurt Waldheim, former Secretary General of the United Nations and ex-Nazi war criminal; Cyrus Vance, former Secretary of State under Carter and member of both the Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission; Clare Booth Luce, a dame of the Knights of Malta; and J. Peter Grace of W.R. Grace Company, who is head of the Knights of Malta in the United States. The center was set up by the Vatican as a part of the Pope's new peace plan, which will bring the world together. See my paper, The Secret Government. The center has two roles. 1. Educate Catholics and their children to accept the New World Order. 2. Provide residence for the world peace. Solution Computer, and an ongoing study for peaceful solutions to any future problems which may endanger world peace. The computer is hooked to the world capitals via satellite. All nations have agreed to relinquish sovereignty to the Pope and submit future problems to the computer for solution. Of course, this will not go into effect until the New World Order is publicly announced. I believe that the New World Order was born in secrecy on January 19, 1989. Now you know. Acquaint yourself anew with the teachings of Jesus. Compare his teachings with the tenets of the Illuminati, and then compare it with the following. The Vatican has stated at various times that the Pope is for total disarmament. The Pope is for elimination of the sovereignty of the nation-states. The Pope is also stating that property rights are not to be considered true property rights. The Pope believes that only the Vatican knows what is right for man. In the early 1940s, the IG Farben Chemical Company employed a Polish salesman who sold cyanide to the Nazis for use in Auschwitz. The same salesman also worked as a chemist in the manufacture of the poison gas. This same cyanide gas, along with Zyklon B and malathion, was used to exterminate millions of Jews and other groups. Their bodies were then burned to ashes in the ovens. After the war, the salesman, fearing for his life, joined the Catholic Church and was ordained a priest in 1946. One of his closest friends was Dr. Wolf Schmannis, the mastermind behind the November 78 to October 79 and March 80 to October 81 experimental hepatitis B vaccine trials conducted by the Center for Disease Control in New York, San Francisco, and for other American cities that loosed the plague of AIDS upon the American people. The salesman was ordained Poland's youngest bishop in 1958. After a 30-day reign, his predecessor was assassinated, and our cyanide gas salesman assumed the papacy as Pope John Paul II. 1990 is the right time, with the right leaders. Ex-chief of the Soviet secret police, Mikhail Gorbachev. Ex-chief of the CIA, George Bush. Ex-Nazi cyanide gas salesman, Pope John Paul II. All bound by an unholy alliance to the Pope has challenged world leaders by claiming that the people of the world already recognize the absolute authority of Rome, because they observe the Sunday Sabbath that was ordered by the Pope in the Council of Laodicea, AD 364. The original 10 Commandments given Moses by God ordered that we should remember the Sabbath day, 2. Keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor, and do all thy work. But the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the 7th day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath. The 7th day, the Sabbath, as handed to Moses by God, is Saturday. The celebration of Sunday as the Sabbath is verification that the people recognize the Pope as superior to God. The only WHOLE people who have not recognized the authority of the Pope are the Jewish people. And that is why the Vatican has not and will not recognize the State of Israel. The Vatican refuses even to call it Israel. Instead, the Vatican says Palestine when talking about Israel. Again, I must remind you that what you believe makes not one bit of difference. The important thing to understand is that if they believe this, it is going to give you nightmares. The Pope has a lot of charisma. And in a one-world system, you need a religious head for power. Khomeini proved that. This Pope has enough following and charisma to make what we consider a great threat in this move. Quote from the Mantooth Report. Pope John Paul II is most anxious to complete his goal. His goal is to reunite the Christian world under the leadership of the papacy. If at all possible, he hopes to reach his goal by the end of this century. This is the primary reason behind the Pope's many worldwide trips. From an article by Jean H. Hogberg Nove, December 1989, Plain Truth. Were you aware that Hitler and his entire staff were Catholic? Did you know that the Nazis dabbled in the occult? Did you know that the New York Times of April 14, 1990, quotes George Bush as stating, "Lefts forgive the Nazi war criminals"? I wonder why he said that. Did you know that the Los Angeles Times, December 12, 1984, quoted Pope John Paul II as saying, "Don't go to God for forgiveness of sins, come to me." The Pope committed blasphemy, thus fulfilling prophecy, according to the Book of Revelation. The Pope is telling us that he is God. Remember, never worship a leader. If you worship a leader, you then no longer have the ability to recognize when you have been deceived. On July 21, 1773, Pope Clement XIV forever annulled and extinguished the Jesuit order. France, Spain, and Portugal had independently come to realize that the Jesuits were meddling in the affairs of the state and were therefore enemies of the government. The Pope's action was a response to pressure applied by the monarchies. King Joseph of Portugal signed a decree by which the Jesuits were denounced as traitors, rebels and enemies to the realm. Pope Pius VII in August 1814 reinstated the Jesuits to all of their former rights and privileges. Ex-President John Adams wrote to his successor, Thomas Jefferson, "I do not like the reappearance of the Jesuits. If ever there was a body of men who merited eternal damnation on earth, it is this society." Jefferson replied, "Like you, I disapprove of the restoration of the Jesuits, for it means a step backwards from light into darkness. The Jesuits are still in trouble today, as they have been throughout their existence." On February 28, 1982, Pope Paul II told the Jesuits to keep clear of politics and honor Roman Catholic tradition. U.S. News and World Report stated that the Jesuits had indeed meddled in the affairs of nations. The article stated, "Jesuits have played leading roles in Nicaragua's Sandinista revolution. Some Jesuits have joined communist parties. One priest in El Salvador has claimed that his order is working for the advancement of Marxism and revolution, not for God. Jesuits have joined left-wing rebel movements in Central America and the Philippines, and have advocated a melding of Marxism and Roman Catholicism in what is called liberation theology. When the United States wanted to employ the nastiest forms of the Hague-Kissinger depopulation policy in Central America, it was the Jesuits who organized and prodded the people into civil war. Wherever the Jesuits go, revolution quickly follows. I am always sad when I see or hear of people being hurt. But, according to my research, the Jesuit priests murdered in Central America probably deserved it. The most powerful secret organization in the world is the Bilderberg Group. Organized in 1952 and named after the hotel where its first meeting took place in 1954. The man who organized the Bilderberg Group, Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands, has the power to veto the Vatican's choice of any pope it selects. Prince Bernhard has this veto power because his family, the Habsburgs, are descended from the Roman emperors. Prince Bernhard is the leader of the Black families. He claims descent from the House of David, and thus can truly say that he is related to Jesus. Prince Bernhard, with the help of the CIA, brought the hidden ruling body of the Illuminati into public knowledge as the Bilderberg Group. This is the official alliance that makes up the world governing body. The core of the organization is 3 committees, made up of 13 members each. Thus, the heart of the Bilderberg Group consists of 39 total members of the Illuminati. The 3 committees are made up exclusively of members of all the different secret groups that make up the Illuminati: the Freemasons, the Vatican, and the Black Nobility. This committee works year-round in offices in Switzerland. It determines who is invited to the annual meeting and what policies and plans will be discussed. Every proposal or plan that has ever been discussed at an annual meeting of the Bilderberg Group has come to pass, usually within 1 or 2 years following the meeting. The Bilderberg Group is directing the quiet war that is being waged against us. How can they do it? These are the men who really rule the world. The numbers 379,111,339. And any multiple of these numbers have special meaning to the Illuminati. Notice that the Bilderberg Group has a core of 39 members who are broken into 3 groups of 13 members in each group. Notice that the core of 39 answers to the 13 who make up the policy committee. Take special notice that the 13 members of the policy committee answer to the round table of 9. You know that the original number of states in the United States of America was 13. The Constitution has 7 articles and was signed by 39 members of the Constitutional Convention. The United States was born on July 4, 1776. July is the 7th month of the year. Add 7 for July and 4, and you have 11. 1 más 7 más 6, igual a 21, which is a multiple of 3 and 7. Add 2 plus 1, and you get 3. Look at the numbers in 1776, and you see 2 7 south and a 6, which is a multiple of 3. Coincidence, you say? I say, baloney. And I'd really like to say something a lot stronger. For those of you who still say it's accidental, however, I offer the following evidence. I could write a book just on numerical links, but I won't. Manly P. Hall, 33rd degree Mason, probably the most renowned expert on these subjects, wrote in his book, The Secret Destiny of America, for more than 3,000 years. W.C. emphasis. Secret societies have labored to create the background of knowledge necessary to the establishment of an enlightened democracy among the nations of the world. ... All have continued, and they still exist, as the order of the quest. Men bound by a secret oath to labor in the cause of world democracy decided that, in the American colonies, they would plan the roots of a new way of life. The Order of the Quest was set up in America before the middle of the 17th century. ... Franklin spoke for the Order of the Quest, and most of the men who worked with him in the early days of the American Republic were also members. ... Not only were many of the founders of the United States government Masons, but they received aid from a secret and august body existing in Europe, which helped them to establish this country for a particular purpose, known only to the initiated few. I found these quotes in a book, on page 133. When added together, 1 plus 3 equal the number 7. Coincidence? I think not. We can get a little insight into the Order of the Quest from Franklin D. Roosevelt's Secretary of Agriculture, Henry Wallace, the man directly responsible for the printing of the reverse of the Great Seal of the United States on the $1 bill. Mr. Wallace, a member of the Order of the Quest, wrote in a letter to the Russian mystic and artist Nicholas Roerich, "The search, whether it be for the lost word of masonry, or the holy chalice, or the potentialities of the age to come, is the one supremely worthwhile objective. All else is karmic duty. But surely everyone is a potential Galahad. So may we strive for the chalice and the flame above it." The Holy Grail has a way of popping up on a regular basis in the writings of Secret in the Great Seal of the United States. We see the ancient symbol of the Brotherhood of the Snake, or Dragon, which, as you already know, is the all-seeing eye in the pyramid, representing Lucifer in the form of wisdom. Just below the pyramid you will note Novuzo Chadu Sekloren, which translated means New World Order. There are 9 tail feathers on the eagle, 13 leaves in the olive branches, 13 bars and stripes, 13 arrows, 13 letters in E pluribus unam, 13 stars in the green crest above, 13 stones in the pyramid, 13 letters in an 13 is the mystical number assigned to Satan, according to Stan Deyo in his excellent book entitled Cosmic Conspiracy. All of these mystical numbers also have special meaning to the Freemasons. You would have to be a devout skeptic to miss the tremendous significance of all of these supposed coincidences. Who among you can still say that there is no link? I read while in naval intelligence that at least once a year, maybe more, 2 nuclear submarines meet beneath the polar ice cap and mate together at an airlock. Representatives of the Soviet Union meet with the policy committee of the Bilderberg Group. The Russians are given the script for their next performance. Items on the agenda include the combined efforts in the secret space program governing Alternative 3. I now have in my possession official NASA photographs of a moon base in the crater Copernicus. This method of meeting is the only way that is safe from detection and/or bugging. The public outcry that would result would destroy everything should these meetings be discovered. A BBC TV documentary program entitled Science Report revealed these same facts, but subsequently issued a retraction. In their retraction, they stated that the show had been fiction. It must be noted here that Science Report was a very respected documentary, non-fiction program in Britain. Never in its history had it ever aired fiction. This subject is explored in depth in another chapter. There is no other method that I know of to verify these meetings, short of somehow becoming a crew member on one of the submarines. Is Alternative 3 true? Or is it a part of the plan to ring in the New World Order? It really doesn't matter, because either way, we're screwed. The quicker you understand that, the wiser you become. The members of the Bilderberg Group are the most powerful financiers, industrialists, statesmen, and intellectuals who get together each year for a private conference on world affairs. The meetings provide an informal, off-the-record opportunity for international leaders to mingle, and are notorious for the cloak of secrecy they are held under. The headquarters office is in The Hague, in Switzerland, the only European country never invaded or bombed during World Wars I and II. Switzerland is the seat of world power. The goal of the Bilderberg Group is a one-world totalitarian socialist government and economic system. Take heed, as time is running short. You must understand that secrecy is wrong. The very fact that a meeting is secret tells me that something is going on that I would not approve. Do not ever believe that grown men meet on a regular basis just to put on fancy robes, hold candles, and glad hand each other. George Bush, when he was initiated into the Skull and Bones, did not lie naked in a coffin with a ribbon tied around his genitalia and yell out the details of all his sexual experiences, because it was fun. He had much to gain by accepting initiation into the order, as you can now see. These men meet for important reasons, and their meetings are secret because what goes on during the meetings would not be approved by the community. The very fact that something is secret means there is something to hide. John Robison wrote Proofs of a Conspiracy in 1798, and I believe he said it best in the following passage from the book. Nothing is so dangerous as a mystic association, the object remaining a secret in the hands of the managers. The rest simply put a ring in their own noses, by which they may be led about at pleasure. And still panting after the secret, they are the better pleased, the less they see of their way. A mystical object enables the leader to shift his ground as he pleases, and to accommodate himself to every current fashion or prejudice. This, again, gives him almost unlimited power, for he can make use of these prejudices to lead men by troops. He finds them already associated by their prejudices, and waiting for a leader to concentrate their strength and set them in motion. And when once great bodies of men are set in motion, with a creature of their fancy for a guide, even the engineer himself cannot say, "Thus far shalt thou go, and no farther." Is the common man really as stupid as the elite seem to believe? If he is, then maybe the average citizen is better off ignorant, being manipulated this way and that, whenever the elite deem it necessary. We will discover the answer very quickly when the common man finds that his e-ticket to Fantasyland has just expired. I hope I have shown you the role of secret societies and groups within the world power structure. I hope you can see how these groups gain and keep power. You should have some understanding of how, operating in secrecy and infiltrating every level of government and vital industry, including the press, the elect manipulate the people and nations of the world toward any direction desired. I hope you caught on to the fact that the secret power structure is toward a totalitarian socialist state, fascism. It is not the Nazis, as they were a product of this power structure. It is not the Jews, although some very wealthy Jews are involved. It is not the communists, as they fit the same category as the Nazis. It is not the bankers, but they do play an important role. I also hope that you are beginning to look inside yourself to see if THEIR reality fits. Are you getting the message? For a better understanding of secret societies and their role throughout the ages, I recommend you read the books listed as source material at the end of this chapter. US President Bush and Soviet President Gorbachev arrived yesterday on this Mediterranean island for a summit conference, beginning today, during which both hope to start the search for a new world order. New York Times, December 1, 1989.